Can I taste your juice?
Hey folks, P. Basardo. Got a device review. Alright, so I've got my batteries all charged up. Let's go ahead and put the batteries in here, and we'll talk about some of the features and functionality on this. Alright, so the batteries are in, and I have some LED flashing there to let me know that. Look back here on the back side, it's firing in its red mode. That's its 3.7 mode. You click this button 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now it goes to its yellow mode, and its yellow mode is the 5-volt setting. Alright, click it 5 more times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes to its blue mode, and that is its high voltage setting, its 6-volt setting. Click it 5 more times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to get a little flash, and now the device is shut off. So I'm pressing the button, and nothing is happening. 5 more times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get the red flash, and now we're back to low mode. So if you're in low mode and you want to shut it off, you're going to have to go all the way to high mode before you get the on and off feature. Potentially leak is going to come out the seams that are blatantly all over this device. Okay, the 510 connection looks like a pretty run-of-the-mill 510 connection, press fitted and probably hot glued in there. I'm not sure, I haven't cracked it open, but it's recessed. Okay, so you see how that is. So if you are going to use a tank like this, this is going to be a little bit top heavy. You're going to have to use some kind of a 510 extension. So if you tank, you're going to have to get a 510 extension. Now this will fit in that hole. See the way that goes in there? Okay, so once you have the connection in, it will fit in that hole. I would strongly recommend against dripping with this, because if you look in here, and I'm going to put some photos up, it's not a drip well, folks. There appears to be a seam in there, and I'm not sure how watertight or liquid tight, if you will, that is. Now, let's go ahead and screw a tank on here, because this is the device that I used to test, or this is the setup that I used to test this. I want to show you the first thing that bugs the hell out of me. What if you are left-handed, which I am? Okay, see where the finger grips are? So now I have it in my left hand, but the button is on the other side. So if I were a right-handed person, that would work out here. I would have done this review sooner, but I couldn't kill the batteries. On their website, they're saying these batteries give you, 4 to 6 hours of vape time. But it says large quantities of 46. Okay. Not even close. Now, I use this with my standard Bogue 2-ohm Cardo in this tank in its low setting. I even used it at work a little bit with a 3-ohm Cardo in its 5-volt setting. I got 24-hour solid vape time out of it. Okay, so not even close to their recommended. Now, maybe if you are using it in its high-volt setting with one of the included cardomizers or clearomizers. Where's the one that I filled up? Here it is. Okay, this appears to be about a 4-ohm Cardo, so maybe that's where they're getting the number from. But I did not test it with that. I tested it with the Bogue Cardo. Let me go ahead and screw this one. Now, this one does just fit in that hole perfectly. It screws right in, and we can go ahead and vape this. That's in its low mode. That's in its medium mode. And that is in its high mode. Now, I will say this about this clearomizer. I tested it with my Bogue Cardo in a tank. I just filled this one up because I'm probably going to maybe review it off to the side because I'm not a huge fan of the CE2 type tanks. But I filled this one up, and it's kind of working good. It's all the way to the top. I don't know how it's going to wick when it gets down below, but I'll just say my initial impression on this Cardo is not bad. Okay, that's as much as I'm going to say about that. Now let's go to this rig here, and I want to take it off of its high mode because its high mode is high. I mean, this thing actually does put out a lot of power. In its low mode, with my rig on there, Bogue low resistance cardo, this is giving me plenty of vapor throat hit and flavor. So it's pushing power. It is without a doubt pushing power, and it did that for me for 24 hours. And that's 24 hours vape time, so that doesn't include sleeping time. So around 8 o'clock in the morning until around 1:30 in the morning, full day for me, and then about half the next day. So as far as vape time between charges, I'll go through some photos here as we go. The plastic is thick. It's a thin plastic. It does not feel solid. If you squeeze it just the right way, you're going to get a little creaks and groans out of it. The battery cover seems to hold pretty well, but it's easy enough to remove there like that. Okay, to give you an idea of how thin this is, let me go ahead and shut the lights off. Okay, and let's fire this. Yeah, the whole thing glows. Okay, that's thin plastic there, folks. Okay, see that? Here's the back of it. You can even see it bleeding the blue through the back of it. It is a nice light show, though. Okay, so there you go. Just wanted to demonstrate that for you. All right, now let's talk about the power this thing is putting out. Okay, so for that, I'm going to have to use a couple different things because it's pulse width modulation. Yes, it is turning the power on and off. So I'm going to have to use my scope, and I'm going to have to take some photos, and we're going to have to talk to those photos, to the scope. The load that I'm going to use on this test is a 3 ohm Bogue cardo. Okay, so not a low resistance cardo, a normal resistance cardo, because I would rather not burn up a cardo in its 6 volt mode. Now let me just show you real quick here. Here's the scope, and there's the wave. Not the prettiest wave I've ever seen, but a wave nonetheless. Here it is in its low mode. VRMS here is 4.11. The cutoff just fired. I think it's got a 10-second cutoff. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple screen captures here, and we'll talk a little bit about what the power looks like under load and no load. Okay, so I did my screen captures, and we can use presentation mode to talk about these. So let's talk about these charts here, or these the screen captures from the scope. Here it is in its low setting. Now, I've had people tell me you shouldn't look at V average, you should look at VRMS, and you shouldn't look at this, and you should look at that. Well, here's all the information. Feel free to look at whatever you would like to. This is in its 3.7 volt setting, no load. Okay, this the wave is a little funky here. I mean, it looks like it's skipping every now and then. The frequency you're going to see will be all over the place. Duty cycle, the percentage of time that the voltage is turned on. V max, look at this, almost 10 volts in its on position, and then obviously turns off. V average here is coming out to 3.6 volts. Now, when I fire that with the 3 ohm cardo, I get this. Things change a little bit. Vmax still hitting really high at 7.75 volts. And the V average and the VRMS, they both take a little bit of a dive here, but I can tell you that this does not vape like a 3.3 volt device. It really does feel like 3.7 volts, okay? In its medium setting here, its 5 volt setting, its V average is coming out to 5.04 volts. Again, hitting high close to 10 volts in its on position. When I go ahead and put that under load with a 3 ohm cardo, it seems to do a pretty good job of maintaining its voltage here. And you can definitely tell in the vape from going from its low to its medium. And then when we go to its high setting, this is its high setting under no load. We are close to the 6 volts here that it's advertised at. Again, the Vmax pretty high, And when we go ahead and fire it with a 3 ohm cardo, we take a little bit of a dive, but again, with it in its high volt setting, you can honestly tell in the vape. Okay, so there's the numbers for you. A little more power here in its low setting. Let's go ahead and put it in its medium setting on a 2 ohm, which is not something I would normally do. Give it a shot anyway. Tasting burnt there. Much more noticeable, like compared to the SVR when you go from setting to setting. Definitely a bigger increase. And let's put it in its high setting and hope that I don't fry the cardo. Ooh. You know when you're going from setting to setting. That is definitely putting out a fair amount of power. That was a horrible, dry, burnt hit right there. And that's much better, but now I got to give my cardo a little bit of time to soak. Okay, to use the clearomizer that comes with it, you're not going to have any issue at all. Okay, if you're going to use a tank, it's not going to work without a spacer. You're going to have a spacer if you want to use a tank on this one. And obviously you're going to have a spacer if you want to use one of the Ego Megas with the recessed 510 connection. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but this is a 510 connection on here. Okay, so the recessed Addy connection. We're still on negatives. The internals, okay, could potentially get juice. You could potentially get juice in there. Although this looks like a well in here, there are exposed seams. So if you have a leaky cardo, or if you're dripping, you got to be careful, because juice could seep in there and mess up your internals. Okay, so that's just something to be aware of. The button on it. The button, although it's clicky and responsive, okay, it's very cheap feeling, and it's a very easy press. You push this up against something, or you know, you have it in your hand the wrong way, this will fire. You do have the on and off feature. Okay. Now the other thing too is this thing is powerful. Okay, it's powerful. So you need to be aware of what you're using and at what setting. Okay, because here's a 1.5 ohm cardo I have. Let me screw this in. In its low setting, it's firing. In its medium setting, it's firing. In its high setting, it's firing. Okay, and I did, on its high setting, throw it on the scope. Doesn't seem to be doing anything with the voltage like the lava tube does. Okay, it just fires at 6 volts. So you need to be aware of that. So if you're going to use it in its high voltage setting, you got to be careful as to what you have on it, because you could potentially pop your coils on your Addy or your cardomizer. Okay, so those are the negatives. The other negative, obviously, is I was satisfied. I wasn't wanting for anything power-wise. 24 hours worth of vape time for me in its low setting with a Bogue low resistance cardo. Made me a happy guy. Plenty of power. I tried it against the Kago battery. It appears to feels like more power than the 3.7 Kago. So it's power-wise very satisfying. Vape time-wise very satisfying. Okay. You know, it's interesting because I've had a few comments on this. My wife said, "Why are you using that thing? You have other things that look so much better." Okay, well, that's what she calls them. She calls them things. She's not a vapor, and I'm trying like hell to get her to be one and get her off of analogs. Okay, so she didn't like it. Now, I had a couple people at the Super Bowl party who held this, and they liked it. They loved it. They oh, it's so cute. I want one. I like the way it fits in my hand. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, you know, remember, no matter how much you hate a device, there are other people out there who are going to love that device. Taste and juice and devices is subjective, okay? Here's what's not subjective. The price on this one. It's $60 for the kit. Some of that information helpful? Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
Can I taste your juice?